Hi guys, it's Jimmy Peglegs, and I'm just taking this opportunity to make a quick video to review Warlords of Draenor. Now it's been out for a few days. I'm sure you've all heard. I mean, if you're listening to this, then I'm pretty sure you either play or you're interested in World of Warcraft. Then you know it's had its problems from the beginning. But I'm not going to concentrate on them too much just yet. Maybe later on in the video. Okay, I'm going to start off by listing some of the good things that I've experienced with the expansion pack. I've leveled my monk to 100 and a few alts to mid 90s. So yeah, let's see. Okay, well, one of the first things that stands out that I really have high praise for is the graphics of Warlords of Draenor. The environments are incredible, and the zones are too. All done really well. Look brilliant. There's not much more that can be said about it really. I mean, Shadowmoon Valley is nice and dark, and it's absolutely beautiful compared to the original one, which was horrid in the original Burning Crusades expansion. And the other ones are too. I mean, I'm not seeing much of Frostfire Ridge, and Spies of Arak isn't really my kind of thing, but even so, I mean, you can tell once going through it that it's really well crafted. Character models, a little bit out on the jury of that. I love the female night elf, and I think they've, contrary to a lot of opinions, I think they've done alright with the humans as well, and the gnomes. Not so happy about the male night elf, but the running animation, the face, the hands, it's all a bit bad. But for the most part, the new character models look great. They've done a really good job with them, and they really add something to the game. Okay, something else when you notice when you're leveling up is the music score. I love Wrath of the Lich King's music score. I thought it was brilliant. I've got the CD. Occasionally listen to it on Spotify and YouTube. You know, it's really atmospheric music. But without a shadow of a doubt, the Warlords of Draenor music score is the best yet, by far. It's absolutely beautiful. There's been a few points during the leveling experience when I've stopped and just had a listen for 5 minutes and really enjoyed it. So really good on that score as well. Really atmospheric. The leveling experience is top notch as well. Timeless Isle was a bit of an experiment by Blizzard. They took flying mounts out, and they did a lot of the leveling, a lot of the content with rare mobs and treasures, where you'd hunt the treasures over the island, and you and a lot of other people would zerg the rare mobs that pop up on the minimap. Now they've implemented this into the Draenor leveling experience, and they've done it really well. They're not constantly overbearing. I mean, once you've done one, you won't see it on the minimap again, so there's no real zerg. But they're all done really well. Some of them are really challenging, some of them aren't. And the way class balancing is done, some of them some classes can solo them all easily, while others will struggle a bit. They all drop good loot for the most part. I mean, sometimes you'll get garrison resources, which is a little bit generic, but I mean others will give trinkets or toys. I've got things like a mount that I can use in a zone that will go really fast for a certain amount of time. Other things they're really useful, like something that you can use when you drop and it breaks your fall. I mean, some classes just don't have that at all, so that's really useful. And there's certain other things as well, like you can get epic weapons, cloaks. I mean, I've got a few on my monk already, which is brilliant. I got a scythe called the Spooky Scythe, I think from maybe the Spies of Arak, I'm not too sure, but it's brilliant. Always wanted one on my monk, and I've seen a warrior, Fury Warrior, dual wielding 2 scythes, which is brilliant. But yeah, I absolutely love how they're done, and they also give great experience. Some people have just leveled up exclusively by finding the treasures, and they've done it really quickly as well. There's a potion that you can get for garrison resources, which give you something like 20% extra XP for an hour, and when you combine that with the banners and other things you can do, you can level up really quickly during the expansion. Now, garrisons, let's go talk briefly about them. I wasn't really looking that forward to them. I mean, I was watching BlizzCon 2013, and they said about garrisons, and I was a little bit ambivalent about it. but they've been a nice surprise when there's not been crashing or constantly getting in the way of anything else. There's quite a bit of micromanagement involved. You have followers which you can find out in the world. You can recruit them via your inn, get them via quests, and they've been done really well. Some of the followers will be characters you know, like Admiral Taylor from Mr. Pandaria, and I think Captain as well in the underwater zone. But there are loads of others as well, and Man of Storm, and yeah, and they all have abilities, and you can send them on group quests, single quests, and you'll see them lead the garrison. You won't see them out in the world, but they'll bring back things like garrison resources, occasionally gear, a fair bit of gold for you. They can fail as well. They can fail the quests, so it's quite a nice little diversion on the side. It's enjoyable, and I don't think everyone's going to find it. Some people are going to find it to get in the way, but I quite enjoy that. Finding the followers is a mini game in itself as well. You can see where they are. Like you have a list of the followers, and you can see where you got to do to go get them. But if you don't look at that, which I haven't really, it's quite nice to come across them out in the world or to be awarded one by quest. Also carrying on from garrisons, your character is saluted a lot. Now I don't know if it doesn't sound like much, but being called commander by all the guards and your NPCs and saluted, and you generally treated like you're a big shot of your faction. It's a nice touch, you know. I mean, you've done a lot of 3D expansions. It's quite nice to have your character recognised, even though if you play a lot of alts, it's going to wear down quite thin, quite quickly. It's nice. Professions have been changed quite a lot as well from the 600 skill upwards. Whereas before, what you do is you'd go out into the world, you'd harvest nodes, mining or herbs, and you'd go back to somewhere like Stormwind, and you would craft. X amount goes into this to make this. But it's changed from 600 upwards. Your garrison has a limited amount of buildings you can craft, or you can make, or place. The small buildings, there's large, medium and small. The small buildings are concerned with crafting. Now, I'm an engineer, I'm a monk, and the first building I could craft is the engineering one. And through that, you can craft, you can buy recipes for your engineer. But when you level it up, you can put a follower in there. You can also buy a certain amount of gadgets, which is quite nice. Now, I haven't done it for a profession that I don't have, but from what I've heard, if you don't have a profession, like say you're leveling a warrior, and you would like some armour, you could place down a blacksmith, and you could craft through that building. And I believe it's only a limited amount of stuff you can craft, but it's quite nice being able to do that. I think you are gated from crafting the upper stuff, the more expensive, lucrative stuff, but it's nice to be able to make yourself some armour or weapons, even if you don't have a blacksmith to do that for you. You can do it through the garrison. But it's like there's enchanting and level working and whatever, really. It's a nice touch. What they also do is work orders for the profession buildings. Now what they do is they allow you to turn resources such as ore or stone from mining into crafting components. And it usually takes a while to do this, like a few hours to do one, and you can submit several work orders at a time, and they'll just tick away in the background, and when you log on next you can go and see what it's been turned into. One of the currencies in the game is the Pexis crystals. I haven't really looked too much into it, but in the Storm Reach, I believe it's called, in Ashran, you can buy a lot of epic gear with Pexis crystals, and it seems to be high tier stuff as well. So that's something you'll want to farm. I know there's a daily quest as well that you get for your garrison where you can choose if to do PvP or solo or group content, and you'll get a lot of Apexis crystals. So it is something you'll want to be doing to farm. Something else that I really enjoyed about the expansion so far is the gear that drops from quests, rare mobs and treasures. It can be randomly upgraded to a rare or epic quality. and it comes with high stats and eye level than the original. Now what that means basically is you can gear up quicker. It's always nice to get an epic when you're halfway to 100 and it'll stick with you for a while. It doesn't always happen. It's quite a rare occurrence, but you can use the Dwarven Bunker, I believe, to increase that chance, which is nice. I mean, it's happened a few times on some of my characters, got like an epic chest or an epic weapon, and it's stuck with me for a while, so it is really useful. Now going back out into the world, something that I wasn't really looking too forward about the expansion was it being so orc-centric. When I was watching BlizzCon, I mentioned earlier, I did a bit of a sigh when he said, oh, it's going to be Garrosh again, and he goes back to Draenor. Oh, no, more orcs. But surprisingly, the story is really well done. Each zone has several really exciting story points. I know Shadow Moon Valley, I mean, by the end of it, several major characters are dead, which is almost George Martin in bloodthirstiness, I suppose. The Orc War Chiefs are introduced with Tarantino-esque cutscenes. For instance, one of them comes up in the Tanaan jungle, and it flashes up in the arena, and he comes up, and it comes up with his name. As it flashes past. That's a really good little touch, I think. And the set pieces are usually spectacular. Now you see these in all the expansions, like the Wrathgate or certain ones where you got to bomb things. Well, on this, already from the very beginning of Warlords of Draenor, I mean, you're doing things like that quite often, like manning a cannon or bombarding an orc army from the back of a sprite dragon. And it feels really good. I mean, there's a lot to it, and it makes your character feel very powerful. The cutscenes, there's a lot of cutscenes in the Warlords of Draenor, and they've done really well. The one at the end of Nagrand, I'm not going to spoil it too much for you, but I think it's probably the best in World of Warcraft so far. I mean, see, there's been a few, such as when you killed the Lich King, that was good, but this one, the end of Nagrand, absolutely brilliant. Loved it. Characters are also great. On the Alliance side, I'm not played through the Horde side too much, but on the Alliance side, you see a lot of Khadgar. Now, if you've read the books with Medivh, and Karazhan, or you remember playing through the Burning Crusade expansion, you'll know that all of Warcraft 2, I believe. You'll be familiar with Khadgar. But he's come back with Avengers in this expansion. He's absolutely brilliant character, he's really well written. I'm not a massive fan of Rage classes, but he really made me want to play on Mage a lot. Got some brilliant abilities, and if they'd implemented some of that into the Mage, I'm sure they'd be having a great time this expansion instead of moaning about their experience to level 100, which is fair enough. I am excited to see what happens to him. I'm sure they've got a lot in store for Khadgar. One of the flagship Alliance characters that we introduced with this expansion is Irel, who's a Draenei Paladin kind of class. Who comes into it more throughout the first zone, and then you see her again and again throughout the others as well. She's good, she's a good character, but I don't think she's as good as Murad, Valen or Doomhammer, who I'd wish had stuck around more. After the first zone, you just don't see them for obvious reasons, which you don't know. I'm sure you will. Thrall pops up a lot too. I'm not a big fan of Thrall, but the end of Nagrand did change my opinion of him somewhat. Something else I want to touch on very briefly: dungeon difficulties. They're a lot harder than Mr. Pandaria, and that's a good thing. I've spoken to a lot of people about them. I've not really touched too many heroics, but from what people have been saying and what I agree with, the difficulty level is somewhere in between Mr. Pandaria and Cataclysm, so not too hard, but they're really not that easy either. They're bad groups, they'll stumble through them, sorry, and wipe hard, whereas good groups, you know, gives you a good sense of achievement if you get through it first time. I'm sure that when raids are released and everyone's got raid gear, I'm sure they'll become trivial, just like the I Miss the Pandaria. But up until that point, they're a nice change. Okay, let's have a look at the bad side of Warlords of Draenor, what I feel has been negative aspects of it. Okay, well, can't go any further really without mentioning the launch. It has been atrocious. Now, I've heard people complain about other launches, saying like, oh, this is as bad as Cataclysm or Mr. Pandaria. I've been there for every launch, and this is the only one I've had problems with, I'll be honest with you. All the other launches have gone really smooth for me, but this one has been terrible. Been massive server queues where it's taken absolutely hours to get into the servers. Server stability has been a problem. Getting to the server and getting kicked straight away, often, and then you have to rejoin the queue. Some people mentioned that there's a grace period, but I never saw that. I mean, I'd get kicked off, rejoin instantly, and have to rejoin the queue. The inability to log on, absolute pain. World server is down, where you get onto your character, try and log on, and then it would say world server is down and you have to go back to the character screen and keep trying. Weird thing about that is that I'd try another character who's in the same zone and it'd be absolutely fine. I could log on to that character, just never the one that I wanted. And last but not least, the dreaded instance not found. Now, I'll explain a little bit more about this. Garrisons, as great as I think they are, they're a choke point. Really badly designed choke point in the sense of where they were placed in the quest line. You'd finish up in Tanan Jungle, and then go straight to your garrison from there. You didn't have a choice in the matter, but so did everyone else. And thousands of people on the servers at the same time, all going into the garrisons. It just crashed absolutely everything. It was really laggy. You'd have to wait absolutely ages to see quest mobs. Massive groups of people surrounding one NPC meant that you couldn't click on it. And then once you did actually make your garrison, you'd go in there and nothing would show up. You'd just be there with an army of other people in your own garrison. Couldn't do anything because whenever you tried to move, you'd warp around and say instance not found, and it wouldn't load the garrison, so you'd stuck with the very first hurdle in the quest line for the first zone. And it was absolutely terrible. And a lot of people were stuck. Some people seemed to absolutely blast through up to level 100, but me included, I was stuck on level 91 for about 4 or 5 days. Just could barely move at all. Really frustrating. And whilst the problems have for the most part gone away, there are some that are still available now. I mean, instance not found. I like to solo content. I have a death knight, great for soloing. I like to go to raids like ICC or Naxxramas and go and try and get a piece of gear that I haven't got yet. And yesterday, not so much today, but yesterday was a really big problem for this. I mean, you just couldn't get in, stuck on the loading screen for ages, and you just had to keep trying, and it took hours and hours to get anywhere. Professions, good as garrisons are, as I said before, professions do seem to be dependent on garrisons. Now, I've not really tried leveling professions without the garrisons, to be honest with you, but from what I've seen, you really are hamstringing yourself if you don't use your garrison. Now, I know a lot of people have said on the forums that they're not interested in garrisons. How quick can they get through the beginning quests before they can leave the garrisons and never have to go back? So there are a few people out there who don't want to use the garrisons, and I think for those people they're going to be really hamstrung for using professions, which is a bit of a shame. I may be wrong in this, but from what I've seen, I mean, just the mine and the herb garden are absolutely brilliant. Just generate loads of nodes for you every day. So I don't know what they're going to do without them. Class abilities. Now, they said a while ago, I mean, that they were going to cut back on the class abilities, and it needed it. It really did. And I mentioned the Ghost Crawler when you were still visited on Twitter about warriors, and he replied saying what abilities would you want to cut back, and it generated quite a lot of a response, and he went ahead with cutting back the abilities on a load of classes. Now some don't seem affected. My Monk and my Death Knight seem still to be as fast and as active and dynamic as they usually are. Always pressing something, still seem fast and responsive. But my Warrior and my Hunter seem to be much more clunky, taking abilities out. Just doesn't seem to be as dynamic, or it doesn't feel as good. My Hunter especially. I mean, tried Marksman for the first time in ages, and I love the massive bombs they'd put out, like the aim shot and the Chimera shot. Love the damage, but it was really slow. Not that much fun for me. Whereas Survival used to be really fast. You're always pressing something, lock and load, you'd have Arcane Shot, and you still got those abilities, but there's just something missing from it. Like, they have cut back abilities out of it. Serpent Sting has gone for one thing, which is annoying. If you want to dot something up with Serpent Sting now, you've got to use multi-shot. So yeah, it just doesn't seem as dynamic, as responsive, which is a shame.
What can I do for you? Have a good one.
Speaking of the classes, the range classes, not all of them, I mean the Hunter still seems to be quite powerful, but for the most part range classes seem to have been nerfed. They're not as good at level 100 as they were at 90. Whereas melee is actually quite powerful, apart from rogues and enhancement shamans, which are a little bit rubbish, for lack of a better word. Now I hope there will be a tuning sweep for the raise launch to address this, but I think a large part of it seems to be the level 100 abilities, which do seem to be hit and miss. Some classes they got good tiers, others didn't. Now I've heard a lot of mages complaining about their level 100 abilities, saying you got to take the crystal, and even that's a bit rubbish. Death Knight tier 100 abilities look amazing. Defile. Always want to use that since fighting against the Lich King.
Careful.
The Hunter tier 100 abilities as well. Always wanted the Pelus Hunter. And I've always wanted explosive ammo. It used to be a talent in the Wrath of the Lich King beta, where your ammo just, I think it was actually explosive shot, but it was an early incarnation of it where you'd fire it and it was like an AoE. It'd constantly erupt from one target and AoE out, and that's what it seems to do for theirs, and it looks amazing. But again, the Monk's level 100 abilities seem to be absolutely garbage. The one that I'm using at the moment seems to be everyone's Chi Explosion, and it really ruins the Monk's rotation. It needs so much more haste to make that work, really. Now, saving the most controversial for last, flying mounts. It has ruined it for a bit for me. I know it's still early into the beta, into the launch, but level 100, running around on my Monk, it does ruin it a bit for me. I mean, the zones are great. I've seen the zones, really admire the work that's gone into them, but they do take ages to cross, and the flight points are still quite sparsely put, that you can take absolutely ages to get somewhere if it's on the other side of the map, which is really annoying. I did enjoy the convenience of my flying mount. Also, mobs seem to chase you for longer. Something I seem to be noticing. They seem to really want to hurt you. Getting dazed. I mean, if you're playing in vanilla, it's not something really that I've really noticed happening since then. Like 2005, 2006, playing the game. It happens all the time now, and it's really bloody irritating. I mean, you can take the stables, which is one of the large buildings in your garrison, to get rid of the daze, but the other buildings which offer a greater benefit to me, and as your building spots are limited, I'm not going to take it just for that. It's just something I'm putting up with. It's really annoying. The reason why I think they went with the no flying mounts route, I mean, a lot of people have said in the past that they don't like flying mounts, it takes away from PvP. I can understand that, but I think they've seized upon this vocal group of people who don't want flying mounts, and they've gone with it simply because they're running that far behind on the launch that if they cut back on all the flying content, all the areas you could go to, you'd see from the air. If they cut back on that, they could get out the expansion quicker, and then suddenly they've got a big gap where they can work on the flying content at their leisure. So I think they've been really clever on that, and say, oh well, it's because that's what people want. But I think Blizzard have had their own agenda with it, and I hope it comes back, because I think a lot of people are gonna rue, saying, oh, we want the flying mounts gone. I mean, I hope they're enjoying it. I do, because it's what they wanted. They've got it, so I hope they enjoy the experience. But I think like going through all the levels again, and overall, and then you're going to do your max gathering, or however you do it, 100, and it is going to take a lot longer. So yeah. Anyway, that's been it for me. I've enjoyed talking about it. All in all, I would say the Warlords of Draenor has been one of the best, if not the best, expansion up to now. The issues have been really annoying, but not really much you can do about that at the moment, is there? It's completely on Blizzard's side. Would I buy it at the moment? I would buy it. I'd buy the expansion, but I'd wait a few weeks. If you can wait, if you're not in a rush for it, I'd probably wait, just so you got the zones to yourself. There's going to be no instance problems, it's all going to be really smooth and as intended. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and one interesting last tidbit. If you live in the UK or have access to the BBC website, Blizzard will be on Watchdog UK, which is a consumer programme for consumer rights, about the server issues. So it might be an interesting watch. Should all look out for that. Okay, this is me signing off. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.